ready to go. So thank you all for attending. This class today, I'm on branding, how the Unsaid sways consumer decisions. We're excited for our speaker today. But first, a few things about this class is led by the Columbia County Small Business Development Center, which offers free one-on-one confidential business advising. I think you both know that, and then also the folks online. But yes, we have free confidential business advising, business planning, capital access, marketing plan strategies, the whole works. You want to figure out what to do with your business or how to grow. We're happy to help you. And additionally, this class is made possible by Wanted Credit Union. They have paid for all the food and coffee, so take some, please. And they're fabulous partners. They really care about the community, really care about the business community. Education is kind of one of their credit union's model is to give back to their communities, and they're really focused on education and financial education particularly. And so this class series is really just a natural partnership between us. So appreciate Wanted Credit Union out there. And then let's see, next slide. Today's speaker. So we're gonna really dive right in. Actually, but before we do that, we go quickly around the room and have to introduce yourself and your organization. And those that are on Zoom, if you could throw it in chat, I can read it out to the room. So
I'm Cheryl Engstrom of Cheryl Engstrom Art. I'm a watercolor artist, instructor, and service designer, which means I put my art on items.
I'm Brittany. I'm with Western Heating and Cooling, and I do their marketing.
perfect class for you.
Yeah.
Mark in the back.
Oh, Mark with SBEC. You may see my picture shortly.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Llewellyn, I'm Spa with Columbia Economic Team.
Awesome. And then I'm Sierra Trask, small business specialist at Columbia Economic Team and director of Keep It Local. Okay, perfect. So we're going to introduce our speaker today, Zachary. So thank you so much for presenting today. Excited for what you have to say. I'll hand your laptop back off to you and run here on Zoom.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah, so first off, thank you all. I'm very grateful to the SBDC for Columbia County. And thank you, Jason Moon. Thank you, Sierra Trask, for probably talking to Jason into doing this. Also, special thanks to Columbia Economic Team, Paul Vogel, and Nagelsbach. So I really appreciate it. Thank you. So if you don't like anything that I said here, just go ahead and say it to Wella or Paul. And they will either, if you like it, that's great, they'll be happy. If you don't like it, they'll probably want to know what to do. That's so the first time that you were observed and the first time that you were seen or you were heard, you were given a brand. Okay. Branding is another word for being, or the word for being judged, categorized, cataloged. And it can't be helped. It just happens to you. In fact, you've already done it to me right now. Come on in. How you doing?
Good, thanks for you.
Good.
Let the party start.
So I'm Zachary Cavanell. I'm the co-owner of State of Assembly. It's a company, the company State of Assembly. And I make it so businesses and corporations and organizations show the best of themselves. And this is some of the work that we end up doing in branding, what we end up doing. So these are examples of branding that we've done. And a lot of times people think that branding is this idea about transforming the look of an organization, but really what it's about is actually shifting someone's mind and shifting their perception. So welcome to How the Unsaid Sways Customer Decisions. In this, we're going to go into a little bit of science, a little bit of philosophy, and some practical applications. And then you're going to leave here with 3 different things to think about that should improve your business. Okay? And what they are what you imply, what they expect, and effective empathy. And before I get into the mystics of the whole thing, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. So these are the words that people, oh, that thing's really close. These are the words that people in my industry, in branding and advertising and marketing, use to make you feel good about spending a lot of money on someone who, for all intents and purposes, daydreams. This is what I do, and this is what our agency does. And all of this work accumulates down to one moment, and it's the best opportunity. And that window lasts for about 120 milliseconds. And it starts with what you imply. I'd like all of you to take out your phones. Just take them out. I know you probably said you got them out. And then I want you to look up at your website. I want you to bring up a website, or I want you to bring up something that has like your maybe LinkedIn or anything that you would essentially tell someone to go to this business because you want to know more about what I'm doing. Okay? Once you get that up, I want you to look at that and I want you to think, okay, what am I implying with this? With the words here, the first thing that you read, the first thing that pops up, what am I implying? What am I suggesting with the images that I have there? What am I suggesting to someone about some of the colors or the language? You can close your phones, but I want you to keep them close to you because I'm going to ask you to look at them. Okay? Put them right now. So this moment is right where a lot of businesses fall right out of the gate. And then they trip and they fall down and they fall so far behind that they end up, it's almost as if they were never part of the business in the first place. So it's important for you to understand the importance of implication on business. And we're going to talk a lot about the science of the brain, okay? Because your brain is so powerful and so strong that you can look at something very quickly and get a big glimpse of what it's all about. So your brains can deal with 10 million bits of data or bits of information any second, and that is the equivalent to 10 HD movies in 1 second. Okay, so you see me right here in front of you, and you also see this room. You can tell when things and cars are driving by. You can tell when people are walking through. You can hear me, and you hear it fine, and you also hear that hum. And you probably notice it if it changed. You understand the words that I'm saying, and at the same time, you're having a conversation in your head, discussing something. You could be having an argument with something in your head. And you can do all this stuff at the same time. But I want you to understand that there is still a point where your powerful brains, you and your customers, can be swayed. So I'm going to show you how easy it is to sway a customer's mind by showing you how easy it is to influence yours. Okay? So, get the water. So, you ready? What's 2 plus 2? 4. 4, right? Even if you didn't want to answer, 4 still pops up into your head, okay? 4 will still pop up into your head. There's no way that you can stop that. That's just an automatic, okay? What's 17 times 24? I see some giving up, snickering, not sure.
I gotta write it down.
Okay, you know that 12,609 is like way too much, okay? And you also know that 123 is like way too small. But you wouldn't be so certain if I told you it was 568. You'd be like, what? Okay, so this sheds light on 2 systems of thought that all of us have as humans, and all of us have, especially to think about, all of us have as customers, okay? Daniel Kahneman, who is a Nobel Prize-winning psychologist, called this System 1, very brilliant name. System 1, which is an automatic system, and System 2, which is a reflective system. So System 1 is that 4, the 2 plus 2 is 4. System 2 is the one where you're thinking, okay, I have to really think through, go through it, okay? So I want to get into the details of this a little bit So please forgive me, but it's really imperative that you understand this part of the brain. So system one is all about quick response, okay? It's good for everyday tasks such as recognizing someone's face or avoiding a car accident. It's also, it doesn't take a lot of mental effort, and so you can use it to multitask and then deal with very complex environments, to manage complex environments. And it thrives in pattern recognition. And that means that it can take experiences from the past, and then it uses that experience to make choices right now, really fast. And it can do all of that without having to go into deep analyzation. System two, it excels at logic and reasoning. It is great for problem solving and making well thought out decisions. If you have a big major problem, you're going to go into system two and you're going to evaluate the evidence. It allows you to consider alternatives. It allows you to consider and come to rational outcomes. Now, this is also crucial because it's good for critical thinking and challenging assumptions and then evaluating those arguments. The thing about both of these systems is that these are very good positives. They also have downsides and they can be a little dark. Let's get into that. System one relies on mental shortcuts. So it is susceptible to biases and it's susceptible to making errors of judgments about environments or about people. It is overconfident. So what it does is that it looks at something, it feels like it knows it, and then it overlooks the details, context, and perspectives of others. It's an auto response that makes it snap judgment, which relies on stereotypes, and then therefore it then reinforces prejudice over time. And it is rooted in our daily habits, which makes it very resistant to change. These are things that you've done over and over and over again. And it does not like to adapt to new information. It does not like to adapt to new situations. System two is slow. Its deliberate step-by-step nature makes it impractical for any fast-paced environments. So it can only handle so much information, and then it starts overlooking details and then struggling with multitasking. It takes significant mental effort to go into the system two, and it takes a lot of concentration to go into system two. And it can be taxing, and it brings on mental fatigue if you're dealing with a complex problem, especially over an extended period. Worst of all about system two is that system two, when it gets overwhelmed and fatigued, it defaults back into system one. So you will recognize this on my face when I go into an ice cream parlor and they say, "Hey, what would you like?" And I go, "Oh, I look at the 30 to 40 different frozen treats on there." And I go, I'm gonna have 1 scoop of mint chocolate chip because I can't handle that. Nearly 80% of the things that we buy, you and I buy, nearly 80% of them are things that we bought before. And what we do is, and I can tell you with all reliance that there are better, there are healthier, there are tastier, and there are cleaner versions of almost everything that you buy. But look at these long, exhausted faces of system two. Do you really want to go through deep evaluation and consideration, and then also through a rational thought process to replace something that you know is fine, it works? I don't. You don't. Most people don't. Customers don't. So it doesn't matter necessarily whether or not you have a good product or service. What we have to do is move it to the next row. And that next part is that you have to make it easy for them to buy. But how do you get this vision and these values and all this different work and all this information you have in your head, you know, that is so good How do you get it down to just give it clarity? And without pushing these people into system 2. And that is by what you imply. Okay? So this is the first principle. You will spend a lot of time and effort trying to explain the benefit to a customer about your product. And and if it is not as easy to understand as 2 + 2, you will spend more time and more effort and even money trying to explain over a long period of time about your product. This is the clear importance of brand. Without a price tag, you know which one is cheaper. Without proof, you know which one is a better version of this. They buy what you imply. So let's go on to the second part of this, what they expect. So for your business to prosper over time, you can't just say anything to them, because eventually the bill will come due and they'll say, this was a lie, it's not real. And we as owners become preoccupied with our own operations. And so we have a tendency to do math like this as business owners. Regardless if I have customers right now, my company has an idea that will fulfill a need. We will fulfill a need, and we have investors, and we have money and employees. So we are in business, we have a business. But this is not an addition problem, this is a multiplication problem. Regardless of whether or not you have a product or service that fulfills a need. And it doesn't matter, regardless of you have investors, or regardless if you have employees who believe in this. If you don't have customers, you have no business. You are not in business. You need customers, because the only valid objective of a business is to create a customer. That makes customers, their expectations, very critical. So if what you imply doesn't match their expectations, then they walk, or maybe they never even come. So expectations can throw everything out of alignment if they're not aligned correctly. And I want to give you an everyday example so you can see how this works, and it's communication, and it's in your house. So imagine that you told your spouse that you were going to leave for a little bit. Not leave. Imagine you told your spouse that you were going to leave for a little bit, and you said to them, I'm going out to visit Heather, will you put away the dishes? Okay? I'm gonna ask you, what is expected of you?
Put the dishes in.
Put the dishes away?
Put the dishes away.
Because that's what's expected?
Close.
Close the dishwasher. Yeah.
Put 'em away.
Right. So if this is Thursday, and my spouse said, okay, I'll put the dishes away, or vice versa, and Saturday came along, that's okay, right?
What's expected is it will be done while you are away.
Yes.
Oh,
What's
true.
implied?
What's implied, exactly. So the funny thing is about this, I really love this guy back here, and he's just like looking at Car Driver magazine. This dishwasher is open right here. So the implication is that you could take 10 minutes out of doing this. I'm just gonna run to see Heather. You can do that, okay? And even though I said your spouse, you kind of put yourself into that spot of that, okay? And so what's happening is that if you didn't put away the dishes, by the time your spouse comes back.
When she comes home, her shin is going to go right into that door. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Right. So she is mad, and this is the thing to remember, is that she's not mad because you didn't put the dishes away. She's mad because you didn't fulfill on the expectation. The expectation is that I've laid everything out for you here, and you did not fulfill that. And so what I'm saying is that the lesson here in business is that people care more about the expectation than they do about the action that you provide. Okay, so I'm gonna change the implication a little bit. You see. What have I told you that they're proud parents of 2 little ones? And then she said, I'm going out to visit Heather, will you put away the dishes? If the dishes aren't done by the time she comes back and this thing, I'm a little less upset.
If the kids are named China and Crystal. they-
Yeah. They're she's probably a little less upset because the expectation of having 2 twins means the expectation is unexpected. You don't know what's gonna happen. So if it doesn't get done, it's like, yeah, no, I get it. So the lesson here is that, it's about the expectation. So there's, excuse me, there's another lesson here that I wanna make sure that you understand though, and it's about whose expectation is important, okay? And that, let's say, I'm not saying like you need to change your brand and, like Airbnb did, and then you're gonna be an $80 billion business. It's not gonna happen. In business, we need to meet the expectations of our ideal customer, not anyone. Okay? And so there needs to be a balance between your needs and their wants. Because the market for sleeping on someone's air mattress in someone stranger's home, where then when you wake up, they make you breakfast in an unregulated kitchen, it's not a big market. And that's so I'm clear, this was the original branding and positioning of Airbnb. And they realized that this was not going to happen, and they had to change who they were talking to and how they were talking to them. This was so bad that at one point Airbnb made breakfast cereal as well. They made breakfast cereal, and they actually made more breakfast cereal, more money from the breakfast cereal they made than Airbnb itself. So then they started changing that brand. So this leads to the second part of this, the second principle. What you imply must meet the expectations of your ideal customer. For the viability of your business over a long period of time, you have to fit into the wants of your ideal customer. So what you've learned is, whether you like it or not, you imply something. Your business, your organization implies something. Whether you like it or not, whatever you imply actually creates an expectation. And that expectation needs to fit the wants of your ideal customer. So how do you know what your customer wants, right? That's always a good question. So let's get into the effective empathy. Let's get into the practicality of all this. So you can do surveys and you can do focus groups, okay? How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Doing well. How are you doing?
Trucking along.
Trucking along. Love that. Doing well, trucking along. Great. So neither one of you really got into the details of how you're doing. Trucking along to me says like, there's other stuff going on, but this is not. This is not the environment or the place for you to discuss that. And there's 2 things. For one, when we have a survey, it just goes into system 1. Yeah, it's fine. Fine. Yeah, I had a great time. When I have a great dinner, I say it was great. If I have a bad dinner, I say it was great. I just want out of it. System 2, when you're doing focus groups, people's behavior change when they're being observed. This is not a great environment for us to be telling us, like, well, how are you doing? Let's pull out the details, okay? So there's a flaw in that. So Steve Jobs didn't say that. And actually, some of you might think that Henry Ford said this. Well, there's no proof that he said it either. But both of those people lived and did, and through their behaviors and through their actions, they actually lived this. And they didn't do surveys, and they didn't do focus groups, and they didn't pull mass amounts of data to come up with an idea, oh, here it is. They didn't do that. They did something quite different. They did something that we all used to do, and we don't do anymore. And what they did was they pretended. Henry Ford used to go on long cross-country trips in a Model T. My father has a 1917 Model T. It's not fast. It falls down quite a bit, falls apart quite a bit. He used to take these informal test trips with Thomas Edison and John Burroughs, the poet, and Harvey Firestone tires. He used to take these trips just to test out how the vehicle went. Steve Jobs used to walk around the halls with his products, and he used to go in there and play with it, and then he'd go into the engineer's office and he'd tell him, I don't like this, I want you to change this constantly. In fact, this thing right here, this is called an iBook. And so at the same time this came out, there was another thing called the iMac. You remember that? It's kind of bluish, white, but it looked like a desktop version. And it had a handle on it. And he used to walk around from office to office with carrying the handle. And the handle was there because he wanted us to get used to computers, carrying around computers, just to make people feel like you could touch this. This is not a thing that's different. So he used to carry that around all the time just so he could pretend what it was like and figure it out. So what stops us from doing what Henry and Steve did in their paths? It's our system one. Okay, you and I jump to conclusions. We use mental shortcuts to jump to conclusions. We often are very overconfident. We've been doing this business for such a long time. We've seen it. There's not much that you can show me that I don't know, okay? And then also, we stereotype our customers. Because we've been doing this for such a long time, we just kind of do an automatic thing, and we don't try to figure it out what the real problem is. We just go, yeah, I've seen this before, I know what this is, I can fix it. You're good, okay? Just trust me. And this impedes our progress. This impedes our progress as an organization and as a company. So how do we practice like Ford and Jobs did? So we pretend, okay? Not necessarily imagine, we kind of pretend, okay? And I don't mean, when I say pretend, I don't mean like be fake or be unauthentic to someone. I'm saying quite the opposite, that I want you to use your empathy effectively. And I want you to, we should be seeing our customers as people and as customers. And as far as cost and execution over results, there is no higher value in marketing and branding and advertising than just pretending. And I want to do this with us right now, okay? You can stay in your seats, it's all good. So we're going to go into system 2, and then you're going to, for the benefit of your customer and for the benefit of your business, okay? So you can close your eyes if you want to, or you can keep your eyes open, but if you do keep your eyes open, try to just stay focused on one thing. In a second, I'm going to tell you to breathe in and then breathe out. And at the end of the breathing out, you're going to feel a little bit relaxed, okay? So breathe in and breathe out. Your shoulders are slack and your arms feel like spaghetti. I want you to visualize your ideal customer. I want you to think of one single person, and this is one person that you really want to do work with. I want you to think of their face. I want you to look at their hair, look at the shape of their face, and then look into their eyes. Like a movie camera, I want you to pan back so you can see them standing in front of you. I want you to look at the clothes that they're wearing. Think about their personality and their character. Are they someone who is direct? Or are they firm? Are they sociable? Maybe lively? Are they a gentle person? Are they patient? Are they reserved? Are they exacting? Do they act this way when they're at home? How does it differ when they're at work? How does their personality differ when they're with their friends? Think about who is important to them and whose approval that they seek out in life. In business, whose approval do they seek out? When they're talking about you to someone else, what impression do they leave? When they talk about your business, what impression do they leave? Go ahead and take your phones back out, and I want you to look at that same website that you opened up before. What you're implying. Do you state the obvious, or do you speak to their wants? Is the context of that, is that more about you or what you give them? You make it really easy for them to understand or hard? If there was no way to hear you, how would you show them that they are more important than you? So I want to leave you with 3 things. So, number 1, they buy what you imply. Okay? Your possible customers don't have the will or the time to give you. Okay? They are okay thinking that 17 times 24 is 568 when the real answer is 408. They don't need to go there. They're just going to take what it is. What you imply must meet the expectations of your ideal customer. Because if they don't, it is assured that over a long period of time, there will be a loss of investment. Could be even a short period of time, if you don't pay attention to the wants of your ideal customer. And before the business decisions, put yourself in the shoes of your customer and pretend. Make your empathy effective. Walk through scenarios with them. Walk through scenarios that an ideal customer would go through. Their wants are your business, and it's not your product or the service that you provide. It's the business, it's their wants that is your business. I'm Zachary Cavanell, and I make organizations show the best of themselves. Your best self implies that you meet the expectations of your ideal customer. And you looked at it, what are you implying by this stuff? So If you want, if you're ever interested in like the science and philosophy behind behavioral decisions, as well as their practical applications of business, you can follow my blog. And then figure out how to contact me or whatnot is down there as well. Yeah, that's all. I really thank you, and I'm very grateful to all of you for hanging out this time.
Any questions in the room?
Yes.
So. I guess my question. Is when you're in an industry. Of where. You work, I mean, you're always going to work with people that are not necessarily your ideal customer. But like for us with a plumbing company, for a heating and cooling company. Shit breaks.
Yeah.
For everyone.
Yeah.
So, and you can't, there is no physical way to ever, and. You know, if I were to write out. The expectations I want to set for, you know, like what expectations I want, the expectations for a service call versus a new install versus a remodel versus a new brand new home. I want to, you know, different ones, but
Yeah.
also I'm not always going to work with my idea and, you know, like, so it kind of,
You,
how do you attack the other kind of, not attack, but.
no, so what you're kind of describing, what I think is, because plumbing, essentially, the target plumbing itself, it's kind of a commodity. So there, almost anybody can learn how to be a plumber and then do that, and nothing really everything breaks kind of the same way, right? So in some ways, your ideal customer, could be, people who pay.
Yeah.
Right?
And there's a lot of people that don't.
There's a lot of people who don't,
Or, you know, or don't, you can set
Right.
the expectation ahead. too.
right? You
And then
can't,
we don't find out that they're not gonna pay until after.
for sure,
For
sure.
That
But
side.
but you also know that there's certain fish that you can get in this river that you cannot get in the ocean. Okay, and so there's certain things that you can do to set up a filter, and that's why the implying thing comes. Because sometimes, if you really want to, you can do tweaks to, let's say, any interaction you have, like a billboard or anything like that. Where it looks like it's raised up a bar. So like an Apple computer is the same as a PC computer, but one costs way much more because it just looks different and it gives people a different feel. I'm not saying though, is that that's things that you have to figure out, because there may not be enough of those people who want to pay. But then what you have to do is do the math, and this is the part that I really love. You have to do the math about what are the things that people don't pay? What is that like? How much time and effort do you put in? Whereas if you paid attention to the people who did pay, would that make up for that? Would you, if you spent time, like I remember one time I went to a client who, he canned vegetables and fruits, okay? And he said, I said, do you take anything? Like if I came with like a cart of strawberries, would you can it? And he was like, yeah, but here's the deal, is that, I'm going to put more attention and love into something that is much bigger than I'm gonna give to you. And so I don't want to do you a disservice. Because I want to make sure that you're happy, and I'm gonna try to do that, but this is my biggest attention. You need to pay attention to the people who actually give you money and not to the people who are not paying attention. I don't know what that is, and we got to have a deeper conversation of what that is. But there's things that you can find out what those are, and to bring that out and go, this is, because you look at people and you're like, you have a kind of a gut feeling about it. Not right for everybody, but there are certain ways, like for instance, you could also only advertise in certain markets where you know, off the top of my head, only advertise in certain markets where you know that there's more money than other markets where it's not. Those are ways that you can kind of figure that out. Does that explain that a little bit?
Yeah, like, yeah.
Well, one of the things, I mean, that I think about with markets and it, for instance, back to the plumbing. The walk-in tubs. We, have a lot of elderly customers that we find out after they put in a walk-in tub, or that they're gonna put in a walk-in tub from one of the big manufacturers that advertise on TV, they advertise in AARP and all of that. We do the same product, and we know that we're, what, $10,000 less? Well, I don't have the budget nor the.
Right.
Yeah, we're,
Like 10
it's,
people.
it's significantly less.
Yeah.
Than, and my struggle has been, how do I even get, and some of them are our customers, that, oh yeah, we decided to do this. They never called us.
And this is the thing about branding, and I wanna make sure that we're also clear on this. Branding is great, like you saw the
Right,
stuff that we
right.
did, that's pretty awesome, great.
Right.
Doesn't matter, the conversation parts, that's branding. How you treat people, that's branding.
Right.
How so when you're having conversations with your customer and they're elderly, you're like, oh, wow. Even if you tell that person, and they're gonna buy the other one. If you tell that person, you're like, oh, it's just really too bad, you could have saved $10,000. If someone else you know could have done that, that would have been great, and they might go. And they would go to somebody else who's gonna get that tub, and they might say, and this is not for sure, but now they know that information. And someone else is getting a tub, and they might say, you know, I paid too much for mine. But that's that, and those are the types of things in conversation,
Okay.
that's how you kind of.
Cause we actually recently had that, somebody was looking at changing their water heater to fit the tub. And they told my husband how much it was, and he was like, oh, wow, but he didn't say, you know, something to the effect with, I wish we would have had the opportunity to bid this because
Right.
on
Because,
average, our price is much less.
because you're not necessarily, I mean, think of what is the number one way to get business? The word of mouth. That's the way, in fact, we talked about that earlier today, and having that thing, even just letting people know that is available, even if they don't do it. That helps, because that information is then sent out like one of those blowing a wish, you know,
Yeah.
but it eventually reaches.
You know, a common one, as you guys were kind of saying that, I feel like a common thing I hear from businesses is that my business, anybody is my customer, Columbia County is my customer, and I'm just wondering, like, you know, if it's, say, a storefront business that sells baked goods, they're like, Columbia County's my customer. How do you, in that scenario, really break down the process of really discovering who your real customer, not just saying everybody's a my customer?
Right, that, in some ways, that goes back to finding the difference between, what you want and your needs and what they want. So for instance, you said baked goods, so there is a restaurant, there's a French bakery that's right down the street, it just opened up, like I watched it open up, and I was like, I want baguettes, that's what I want.
I want it all.
Yeah, and every day I was just like, I'm there. At the same time, there's a place that I go to where it's a cinnamon roll. And they don't have cinnamon rolls at this French bakery. It's American. I'm like, and even if they did have cinnamon roll, I'm not having it. I want the one that's huge, big. So the thing about that, and the reason why I bring that up, is that the people who do the cinnamon rolls, they actually love doing that. They have a passion for it, and that passion seeps out into the other people. And so then when people see that passion, then they actually start paying more for that passion. And then you can slightly raise prices, and then do the thing that you love while still doing, you know, because you say, okay, good, it could be loaves of bread, but if you did a good job with loaves of bread and people saw it, they fall in love with that aspect of it. So and don't try to be everything to all people. I mean, isn't that like a saying that we all say, right?
I've actually had a conversation with a person in the past that I said, you know, I'm sorry, I don't think we're the plumbing company for you.
For sure.
And you know, I think you're looking for something else.
Right.
And you would be best served to find a different one.
That's the expectation.
Yeah.
Part.
Yeah, the part that I would love too is, for instance, where you have an opening to like just knock it out of the park, is to go, I'm not the plumber that you have in mind, I'm just not. You know what? I know who is. I'm gonna have them call you and I'm gonna do that. And then they will always think of you as the one, again, going back to another thing that we talked about, is that you're the one who gave them the lead and showed them how to do it. And then they look at you with nice eyes. And then they're like, well, and when they get that other plumber and it doesn't work out because they're cheap and they're terrible and they suck at their job or whatever, they're gonna come back to you and be like, well, possibly come back to you and then learn their lesson. There's a lot of different scenarios or whatever, but there's a lot of different ways that you can kind of figure that out. But if you makes you look good, that's the way it's gonna help you. And again, it goes back to setting their expectations. You set their expectations, because, well, you're like, I can't do this way, but you know what? I got something that can.
That's great advice. I feel like when I was thinking of Columbia Bakehouse that just opened in Rainier.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
yum.
And like in that business, it was a bakery before, and she retired. But you know, it wasn't massive, a lot of like excitement and energy. But then when Columbia Bakehouse came in, she has this brand, she has a way she's presenting herself. When you go inside, it feels modern and just like, as you said, like what you imply.
Yeah.
Rainier's lost her mind about
Sure.
Columbia Bakehouse. They
Yeah.
love that place. And there's lines sometimes, like, and it's Rainier, so.
Yeah.
Like, that's interesting to me, that it was a bakery before and it just took a different presentation and maybe some different products and quality.
It implied something totally different, because, I mean, it's also like you can feel that with restaurants, like, for instance, if you go into like St. Helens, there are some restaurants that imply one thing, and then some restaurants that imply another. Depending on how I'm feeling, I'm either gonna go to this one or I'm gonna go to that one. And it's not like, I think that we often think as business owners, and I'm a small business owner, so I think that we often think that we need to get everyone who's doing this, and we need to get everyone to shop here and do that, but that's not necessarily how humans work. We go a little over here, we dabble over here, kind of see how things work, okay? And that part where you can separate yourself out, like they did, and like rethink how we're different and imply something different. That is very special, you know, even just taking what they had and then implying something different with it. That works, because then someone will still go to a different bakery when they want bread, will go to a different place for cinnamon rolls, will go to a different place for baguettes. And that's okay, because then you start to be known as the place for cinnamon rolls, the place for baguettes. And then you start hiking the prices. I mean, barely. Because that's what you're worth, so.
All right, awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, but definitely was really excited for this class. Zachary's just awesome. The way he thinks, I feel like you can definitely see it's not the traditional presentation of branding. It's really a different way to think about this.
Well, it made me look at my website and look at what we have written here for the company, and it's more about us, not about them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's true.
it's gonna stretch my brain.
We're all in system too.
Well, it's kind of like what you offer, because I mean, there's at the home part of that.
That's the dessert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Northwest Plumbing is the.
Yeah, that
main
website
business.
sucks right now, actually.
The Sass at Home one.
Yeah.
Huh, get on that there, kid.
Yeah, your next project.
I love your pen.
Thank you.
Okay, well, coming up, our next class is gonna be law for small business. We're almost done with putting it together. And so it's for sure gonna be on November 21st. We're deciding it's either gonna be about business structures or intellectual property. So one of those topics is what we're gonna cover about it. And then December, we do something different because we know December is like a crazy month for everybody. So on Tuesday, December 10th, we're doing our News Beer Holiday Cheer event, our second annual one. And basically come to this event at Crooked Creek Brewery, you get a free beer. And we'll just celebrate small businesses. We'll share a little bit about like our programs put up to this last year and what we're planning to do in the next year. But overall, it's like a social time to celebrate you as business owners. So if you want to RSVP, you could just do that on the Eventbrite. And so more information will go out that soon. Also, we are looking at 2025 and really deciding like what classes we want to do for our next Munch and Learn series. So we're about to do a survey, which I'm hoping to push out next week. And that survey is going to have like, it's like 20 something options for class options. So you'll have to kick yourself in the system too. But basically like, there's so many different topics we could present. And we really want to be sure to like, we present something that you guys want. So if you could take that survey, that'd be really helpful for us designing 2025. So, and I have all your emails if you are speaking on the Eventbrite, so we're good. Thank you for coming. And if you ever have questions, feel free to reach out to Jason or I, or we're happy to help. We have 5 minutes back to your lives. Grab a sandwich and coffee on your way out, and thanks for coming.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
I kept picturing
How are you doing?
what you're saying. I kept